What's up, guys? It's GS Luke. Unfortunately for us golf fans, last weekend at the Memorial was an absolute shit show with John Rahm getting COVID. Clearly the go-ahead winner there. It was a week not to remember. Luckily, this week we get to hit the reset button a bit, head down to the low country of South Carolina and play the Palmetto Championship. This tournament replaces the RBC Canadian Open, which cannot take place, ironically, due to COVID. But not only do we have this new event, we also get to see a beautiful new course. That's Congaree Golf Club down in the Low Country. It's sure to be one of the most beautiful courses we've seen in a while, and it's sure to give some of the players some deja vu from just a few weeks ago at Kiowa Island. Let's hop into the field here for you guys here at the Palmetto Championship. We have a full field size of 156 golfers. But don't get too excited, to be honest. We do have about 10 notable golfers in the field, but other than that, we have a very weak field. Just to go over some of those notables, we have DJ looking to get some form in before that US Open. We also have Brooks likely trying to do the same. Obviously, the last time we saw him was at the PGA Championship where he finished second. We also have Terrell, Matt Fitzpatrick, Tommy Fleetwood, Sungjae Im, Siwoo Kim, and that's about it. Pretty much everyone else in the field is just not a stalwart on the PGA Tour. More guys that we see filling in from week to week. Just to go over some of the notables that we do have, we have John Pack and Davis Thompson making their professional debuts. We've seen Davis Thompson as an amateur a few times. He's made the cut his last two times out. I'm excited to see how he plays. John Pack was the Haskins Award winner, the best collegiate golfer in the nation. He will be making his professional debut, so I'll be keeping an eye on him as well. So two standouts aside from those two. From South Africa, we have Garrick Higo, who played at the PGA Championship and made the cut. We also have Wilco Nyaneber. Wilco is one of the longest hitters in the world. He's been seen hitting 380, 400-yard drives on the European Tour. So I'm stoked to see that. He's going to make Bryson look like a shorter hitter. So look out for those two. And the cut for this week, we have the top 65 in ties. So, the full 156-man field, normal cut. We are going to see a very low 6 of 6 percentage this week. Again, we have a weaker field. You're not going to have that much strength down low, and you're going to be looking to survive this week in DFS. For the course this week, I foreshadowed it before, but we have an absolutely beautiful course. That is Congaree Golf Club in Ridgeland, South Carolina. That's in the Low Countries, the marshlands down there in the southern part of South Carolina. And it's a relatively new course. This course was designed and finished in 2018 by Tom Fazio, and we've never seen it in a professional setting before, let alone even, a flyover. So we don't have much information on this course. We're going to go with the information we have to do our best. Congaree is supposed to resemble an Australian golf club, something towards, Royal Melbourne, some of those iconic Australian courses with a lot of sand and a lot of undulations. There's a lot of expansive sand areas, as you can imagine, at a course like that. There's actually not even any rough at this course. All of the rough is sandy areas, so as soon as you do get off that fairway, you are going to be in sand, which is very unique for this golf course. We also have trees that have been completely taken out. So South Carolina is typically full of a lot of trees, but they've taken a lot of those out. It's going to resemble what we saw at Kiowa, where there are trees here and there, but it resembles more of a desert than it does a forest. So from a few of the aerial views that we've seen, there's apparent that there's a lot of undulation on the greens. Tom Fazio is the designer of this golf course, so that shouldn't be very surprising. He's somebody that designed the Corrales golf course that we see every single year. He designed Shadow Creek in Las Vegas, which played as the hardest golf tournament in PGA Tour history. And most notably, though, he did design Augusta National. So obviously the most iconic golf course in the world was designed by this guy. We know it to be the most complex golf course in the world. So don't be surprised if you see a very complex golf course here at Congaree. The golf course has a 55 yardage on the official scorecard, which is extremely long considering this is a par 71. We saw a similar setup, a similar length at Kiowa Island, so that's why I mentioned it as a little bit of a corollary course before. And when courses get this long, a lot of times the winds can play a pretty big factor. If you're playing into strong headwinds, especially at a course in South Carolina, that's going to be a problem. And finally, the grass type for this course, we have Bermuda grass. That's typical of what we see in the South. At Kiowa, we did see pass palm, which was a little bit unique, but we're back to the typical surface this week. So let's talk about how this is going to play in general. First of all, I imagine it's going to play very difficult. So if we take a look at some of the other Fazio designs, Shadow Creek, Augusta National, they are not easy golf courses. They're very hard to putt. They're very hard to get up and down on. A lot of the undulations are towards the edges of greens and take your balls into very, very bad areas, whether that's a hazard or a pitching area. The length of the golf course is also likely to cause problems, like I mentioned. It's extremely long for a par 71. And in general, I think the field is going to, the field, or not even just the field, the golf tournament in general is going to have a European Tour feel. You have a lot of the European Tour players playing here, but Tom Fazio has been quoted as saying he designed Congaree to be played along the ground. So that goes along with the Australian narrative where he tried to make that Australian type golf course, but that is going to fall directly into a lot of these European Tour players. Almost all the golf courses in Europe, Scotland, Australia, etc., they play along the ground. They're not hitting very high apex shots. So I do expect a lot of the European Tour players to do very well this week. And we also do have a second shot golf course. So Tom Fazio is also very famous for designing courses like this, where there's really not a lot of penalty off the tees. So like I said, all of the rough areas, and I put that in quote, are sand areas. And to be honest with you, they're not that penal. You do have some shrubs here and there, but they're not super sandy. They're designed to be hit out of. And you're really looking for guys that are going to be great with their approach play, because essentially you're bombing it out there. You're hoping to get it out there as far as possible, and then you're trying to get as close to the pin with your approach shots. And like I mentioned, we do have a lot of undulation on these greens as well, so making sure you hit at the right part of the green is going to be essential. Any slight miss is going to be exaggerated to the fullest extent. That's what the runoffs are designed to do. So make sure you're playing guys that are very, very precise with their irons. And lastly, I think you're going to see a first-time winner this week. We do have a relatively weak field with only a few of the top guys really playing this week. So I do expect somebody, perhaps from the European Tour, to break through, get their first win. So expect that this week. Now hopping into the key stats for this week. As you guys might know, I normally use a data-based approach to do this section of my videos. I use a linear regression model to help identify a correlation between a player's skill set and their success at any given golf tournament. Unfortunately for this tournament, we don't have any data available. We don't even have any comments made by players or anything like that to go off of. So what we're going to have to do is make some assumptions. Obviously, I've taken a good look at all the information we have available about this golf course, flyovers, some commentary of people that have played there, comments from the designer himself, Tom Fazio, and this is what I came up with. So at number 3, we have driving distance. So from what we've heard about Congaree is that fairways are not hard to hit. They're extremely wide. There's not really any rough to speak of. So pretty much all the grass out there is going to be fairway. There are sandy areas around the fairways, but I've heard that they're not that penal. They're relatively rough sand, so they're easier to hit out of than some of the fluffier sand. And they also don't have a lot of shrubbery or external hazards in them. There's just a lot of sand, a lot of grass, a few trees, spread here and there. And overall, this looks like a bomber's golf course. It boasts a 7,600 yard length, actually a little bit more than that. And you would think that distance is absolutely going to be a premium at a golf course like this. So I'm looking for longer hitters, and that's why. At number 2, I'm looking for shots gained, short game players. People that are great at getting up and down, great putters, pretty much anybody that can get the ball in the hole. Fazio is not afraid to make courses terribly difficult. We saw that at Shadow Creek in Las Vegas. It ended up being one of the hardest PGA Tour events we've seen in quite a few years. We also see quite a few undulations on Fazio's greens. He likes to put, false fronts, a lot of drop-off areas towards the side of greens. And as a result, I do expect up and down and around the green to play a huge role this week. And at number 1, we do have shots gained approach. It's a staple of my analysis week to week. It's the number 1 correlated stat for pretty much every single golf tournament that we see. And anytime I don't know much about a golf tournament, I am absolutely going to fall back on shots gained approach. It's something that's very reliable. We see it consistent from week to week. People aren't usually hot and cold with their irons from week to week. It's more of they go into funks or they go into hot streaks. And as a result, I'm going to be leaning on shots gained approach this week at the Palmetto Championship. Now for my top 6 golfers to target in each range. For my spend up target, we are going to have Terrell, Hatton, a golfer coming in at $10,200 who absolutely fits the mold of both a European phenom, plus from the approach play, distance, short game, he pretty much fits it all here at the Palmetto Championship. So Terrell Hatton's a prolific winner on the European Tour. Last year and the year before, he was number one on the points list, ended up taking home the race to Dubai both years over on that tour. And I expect him to do very well given the Fazio design is supposed to be reminiscent of a lot of those golf courses that they play over there. Terrell Hatton's somebody who's very good with his irons, so you'd love to see that. That's my number one key stat this week. He gets very streaky with them at times too, which can be very good if you're looking for a winner at a golf tournament. Terrell Hatton also has an exceptional short game. He's somebody that has pretty much every shot in the bag. We've seen him win at very difficult golf courses before, most specifically the Arnold Palmer Invitational, where the winning score was just 5 under par. And as a result, I do expect him to do very well this week. He also does have very good distance off the tee. He averages in that 315 to 320 range, which is going to be more than enough to do well here at Congaree. At number 2, for my second man in, we have Tommy Fleetwood, a $9,500 golfer who fits a very similar mold to Terrell Hatton, and that's why I absolutely love him this week. So Fleetwood is somebody who also tends to win on the European Tour, but lacks a win on the PGA Tour. That's something that I think could change this week, especially given that the course pretty much fits him to a tee. So Tommy Fleetwood is somebody, who historically is great off the tee. Not one of the longest players, but very accurate, which can be valuable at pretty much any course. But more than that, Tommy Fleetwood is an exceptional iron player and an exceptional putter. He's somebody that, doesn't miss very often. He keeps himself in play, and he gets very hot with a putter. And when he does that, he wins golf tournaments. We've seen him win more than a dozen over on the European Tour. And honestly, it's just a surprise we haven't seen it translate to the PGA Tour. Like I said, perhaps it happens this week at a European Tour-like event. And that's why I like him as my second man in this week. For my bread and butter play this week, we have Danny Willett coming in at just $7,900, which makes him a great value for somebody in this range for me. I absolutely love the way that Danny Willett fits this golf course. He's somebody that we've seen win the Masters, and that was in especially difficult conditions at a Tom Fazio design, but we've also seen him play well of late at difficult courses as well. We saw him make the cut at the PGA Championship, ended up coming to a top 25 finish, which you love to see for somebody like Willett that hasn't really been playing a whole lot on the PGA Tour of late. When Willett's played on the European Tour, he's done well. He's obviously one of the top 20, 25 players on that tour, and tends to pop here and there. And at an event like this, he just fits really well, and he, frankly, is just a lot better than the people priced around him. We have people like C.T. Pan, Scott Stallings, people that are just inferior golfers to Danny Willett priced around him at nowhere near the course fit that we have. Danny Willett is very good off the tee. He's well above average with his distance. Not very accurate, which I think he's going to be able to get away with this week. He's also decent with his irons. He's about a neutral iron player for the year, but we have seen him pop at tournaments, which is what you're looking for. But most of all, he's a short game specialist. He consistently is gaining around the greens. He's great with the putter as well. And at a course where he's going to feel it home, it's much more of a links type course than we usually see on the PGA Tour. I think Willett has more success that's reminiscent of his European Tour starts rather than a PGA Tour start. So that's why he comes in as my bread and butter play. My value play is going to be Erik van Rooyen, coming in at $7,500. I'm pretty sure he's going to be some chalk this week. Everyone's going to want to own some Erik van Rooyen, but I'm all right with that. He's just priced way too low for this field. He's somebody that should be priced in the $8,500 to $9,000 range, given this field strength and whatnot, and he's not coming in bad form either. We saw him do very well at the match play. We saw him follow it up with a few solid performances as well, some made cuts, a blow up at the PGA Championship where he hit the tee marker into the water. We've pretty much seen it all from Erik van Rooyen. He's a very volatile golfer. We've known that for some time. He's somebody that pretty much either goes out and contends or misses the cut. But for somebody in that $7,500 range, he actually has a chance to win, and I pretty much don't think anyone else in that range can say that. He's somebody who's won plenty of times in a European Tour. He has more than 15 wins internationally. Again, doesn't have a PGA Tour win, but if he was going to break through, it's going to be at a venue like this, a venue that prioritizes people that can be accurate with their irons, can get hot with their putter, but moreover than most, that can play the ball along the ground. Erik van Rooyen, being somebody from South Africa, is very, very familiar with, first of all, sand, second of all, playing along the ground. And I think that familiarity is going to play very well for Erik van Rooyen this week at the Palmetto Championship. For my diamond in the rough, we are going to be playing Seamus Power, also a $7,500 golfer, but somebody who's going to be coming in with much lower ownership than somebody like EVR. Seamus Power has been on an absolute heater of late. He had a top 10 at the Byron Nelson, a couple made cuts beforehand, a couple top 5 finishes on the Corn Ferry Tour. Seamus Power's from Ireland, somebody that's very used to the windy conditions, very used to playing the ball along the ground. All the golf courses over in Ireland are very stylistically similar to what we're going to see at Congaree. And you're going to see that pretty much all the guys on my list this week are guys that are going to be used to that style of golf. Golf courses like this, it's very reminiscent of the Open Championship. It's just a completely different style of golf. When you play the Open Championship and DFS, you pretty much have to eliminate half the field from contention. Players that aren't good at getting up and down, can't play the ball along the ground, have no shot. And Seamus Power is somebody that has a shot this week. He's just used to that style of play. We've seen the form of late, and he's also somebody that pops. Now he doesn't have a win on any of his tours or any starts so far in his career, but he has plenty of top 10 finishes. He has 5 PGA Tour top 10 finishes, which is excellent, but over 10 internationally as well. At a $7,500 price tag, that's pretty much all you're looking for. You're looking for him to make a bunch of birdies, finish in that top 10, and I like his chances this week. And finally, my flyer for this week is going to be Wilco Nienaber. First time we've ever seen him on tour, but I'm willing to go there at $7,300. So like I mentioned before, Wilco is the longest professional golfer in the world. He hits the ball 380 yards on average off the tee. It makes Bryson look like an average tour player, and I'm just very intrigued about that. He's somebody from South Africa that's going to be used to these type of conditions. This golf course is going to more resemble what he's used to than what these PGA Tour players are used to. So I think he's going to look a lot more at home than a lot of these professionals. Wilco obviously has talent through the roof. I've seen YouTube videos and Instagram videos of this guy for 3 or 4 years now. That's how solidly he hits the ball. And he's priced up. He's priced around guys like EVR, Seamus Power that we've seen, dozens of times on tour. So I don't think many people are going to be going there, and I'm willing to. He has that talent, he has that familiarity, and it's not going to take much to get over the field on somebody like Wilco. I like his chances to finish in the top 10. I don't think he's going to win or finish top 5 by any means. I think that's pretty much impossible. But I do think a top 10, top 15 is very possible. And with his distance and scoring upside in terms of eagles, birdies, etc., he could very well outpace that in terms of his placement position. So I like him this week. He's my flyer, and that's all I got for my top 6 plays. That's all I've got for this week's DFS preview, guys. Let me know in the comments who you think takes home the trophy this week. I personally obviously think it's going to be Terrell Hatton, but let me know who you guys think brings it home. As always, make sure to like and subscribe if you guys enjoyed the content, and make sure that you're able to see it when I post it as soon as it goes up. As always, good luck, and I will see you guys next week.